Okay, we're recording. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to today's live webinar. We are covering Microsoft Word. So it's Intro to Microsoft Word, Part 1. We're going to have 3 parts for this series. And before I introduce Susan Winkler, our technology librarian, I just want to go over a couple of library things. We are currently closed to the public, but we are still here in the building helping answer questions. So you can feel free to give us a call. You can email us. You can chat with us on our website. There's like a little chat bubble. You can talk to us through that. We're still doing curbside as well. And we are still offering like this with programming. So we have webinars going still. And what else was I going to say? We are still doing Book of Librarians. That's what I was going to say. So if you wanted to get some one-on-one help with certain things like Word, or like you need to learn about your iPhone, or any question like that that you want in-depth help with, you can fill out a Book of Librarian form on our website. It's champaign.org/book-a-librarian. And I'll put that in the chat too. Once you fill out that form with the info that you want to learn about, then we'll get in contact with you and set up an appointment virtually, or even over the phone too, if that works for you. And then also for Zoom features, if you want to chat with us during the webinar, ask questions, you can click on that chat bubble there and then type in your question. I'll be monitoring that the whole time that Susan's presenting, so feel free to pop in a question there, and I can either answer it or pose it to Susan, and then we can cover it as a, like in the webinar live as a demo or something like that. There's also a raise hand button, so if you see the little hand icon, if you click on that, that'll raise your hand, and then I can either chat with you and help answer the question you have, or if you want, we can unmute your microphone so that you can ask your question verbally. Sometimes I know it's easier to do that rather than try to type in your whole question in the chat. So feel free to do that. Feel free to interrupt us if you have questions. That's part of what we're here for. So I don't think I have anything else to say, unless I missed something, Susan.
I think you covered it all. You can also check our website for the latest updates for things like curbside and events and everything like that too. So
yes, we're pretty good at keeping our website updated. So if you like want to know what's going on at the library or if any changes are going on, champaign.org is where you want to go. Okay, well, without further ado, I'll introduce our technology librarian, Susan Winkler. Hi, Susan.
Hi, how are you today, Rebecca?
I'm doing okay.
Good, glad to hear it. Hopefully you're excited to learn about Microsoft Word today.
I'm always interested in learning some ins and outs of software that I use every day, you know. I feel like even if you're a pro at something, just learning the little tips and tricks to help make your work life more efficient is what I'm here for.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm still learning stuff about Microsoft products as well as other tech topics too. So, you know, I'm a lifelong learner as well. And welcome everyone to today's class, which is Intro to Microsoft Word Part 1. We will have, as Rebecca said, 3 parts. So today we're covering generally how Microsoft Word is structured and how to find things that you're looking for. And then part 2, we'll get just a little bit into being able to manipulate text today. And then part 2, we'll cover things like inserting and formatting issues. And then we'll do, with part 3, we'll get into more of more formatting stuff. And we'll have plenty of time to answer questions if you have them. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to start by sharing, hopefully, my PowerPoint. Which if I did application window, I thought I could get to it, but maybe not. Let's see, okay, it may take me just a moment here. I guess I'll share the entire screen and it'll get a little meta here. Okay, are you seeing the PowerPoint now? Right here?
I'm sorry, I was muted. Yes, I do see that.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start our PowerPoint here. And we'll go ahead and make the slideshow here. All right, so today's class, as we said, it's Intro to Microsoft Word Part 1. And I'm going to go ahead and what we'll cover today, we're going to cover the different versions of Microsoft Word because there are several versions now. There are versions that are both cloud-based, meaning that you need an internet connection to make them work. And there are also versions that you can use on your computer. And it's only installed on your computer and you don't need the internet to access it. We'll go ahead and talk about some terminology and descriptions. We'll get into the basic elements of what you see on the page when you've opened the software and when you're working with it. We'll talk about the tabs and the groups, which you'll learn what those mean in our terminology section. And then we'll cover how to create a new document, how to save documents, because there is a difference between just hitting save and hitting save as. And then we'll talk about ways to open existing documents. And then we're going to get into text and font and how to manipulate a little bit of text and font. And then that's everything we'll cover today. And then again, there is a part 2 and a part 3. If you want to, you can go to the Zoom to champaign.org/events and sign up for part 2 and part 3 if you want. You do not have to take part 1 to take 2 and 3. You can take 2 and 1. You can take 1 and 3. It's totally up to you. We'll get everyone up to the same level when you take them. So, okay. So the first thing I want to talk about are the different versions of Microsoft Word. So right now, if you haven't heard of Microsoft 365, Microsoft 365 is Microsoft's branding for the version of Microsoft Office that includes an Outlook account that you can get for free. So there's a free version out there where if you get an Outlook account, which is basically a Microsoft email address at Outlook, and then with that comes a certain package of free things that you get to utilize. And that does include a version of Word. It includes a version of Excel and a version of PowerPoint. So the free account provides the access to these apps, but you do need an online connection to use them. So you do need to have internet access on whatever computer, and you do have to sign in with your Outlook account, and then you can jump between the different things like Outlook and Word and everything else. It doesn't offer the full features of the paid Microsoft 365 account, but it gets you started and it gets you in there, and you can start playing around with Word Online, basically. Okay. And then there's also a paid version, and there are different versions of a paid plan, which includes stuff for home and for business plans. You have more advanced functionality with that. And you don't necessarily need internet access for that. You can do it offline as well. And then I'll show you the website to compare these plans in just a moment. Then you might also have the current version of Word that you can put on your computer and install onto a desktop computer or PC or another device, would be Microsoft Office Home and Student. And that is a bundle that includes Word 2019, Excel 2019, and PowerPoint 2019. There are previous versions that you may have too, like 2016 or 2013 or even older versions. Today we're going to work with 2016 because that is what we have installed on our training laptops here at the library. But again, I will show you this in just a moment. Before we get into terminology and descriptions, if everybody can see the little icon down here that looks like a big W with blue around it, that's our general Word icon. Yours may look slightly different than that for how to get to your software, and we're going to get into it in just a moment. So what I'm going to do now is hopefully stop sharing my screen and jump out of the PowerPoint, come back into our webinar here, and share a different screen, hopefully, and share my entire screen. And then, hopefully what you'll see here in just a second is my desktop. Do you see my desktop screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So when I want to go and find Microsoft Word 2016 on my own computer, if you have Windows 10, which is what I have here at the library, I can click right here and type in Word 2016 or 2019. There's 2016. And you'll see it pop up here with the best match for Word 2016. That's where I'm going to go to tap on that and then jump into it. But you could also come to the Start menu over here, and you can scroll through this list. Now, it's a little tricky to find that there's a little scroll bar here. So you see where if my cursor's up here and I put it right between these, what they call apps and charms over here, and I put it right between there and I hover, then this little bar will appear. That's our scroll bar where we can scroll down our list of things that are loaded on the computer. And I can find Word this way too by coming down to the W's and looking for it alphabetically. And then I can tap on Word 2016 and open up Word here. And the first time you open it up, you actually have the option to make a blank document, or if you know for sure a particular type of document that you want to work on, you also have the option to look at templates. And if you look here, there's lots of different templates you could use. There's templates for resumes, for a cover letter, a report, a calendar, let's see, a certificate, all sorts of things, even a party invitation. So if you were coming in here for the first time and you wanted to start from scratch, you could pick blank document. If you wanted to start with something else, you could go here. So we're going to start with blank document. So if you see here where it says document 1, Word up there at the top, and now we have a blank document that we can work in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let's see if it works if I just jump back or if I have to stop sharing. So I'm going to stop sharing and jump back in here. And let's see if you can see my video again. Okay, no, it looks like I might have to stop the video. Okay, I'll share the screen again for the PowerPoint though. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna have to do it this way. And then hopefully in a second here, do you see my PowerPoint?
No, I just
Nope.
see your Zoom screen.
Okay, let me stop sharing and let's jump back out of that and I'm gonna try again. Share screen. There we go. Let's try this. Okay, how about now?
Yes, I see it now.
Okay, perfect. And we'll go from current slide and do a slideshow. Okay, can you see terminology and descriptions?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to run through this terminology and description section and then we'll go back to the live demo and I'll be able to show you where the things are that we're talking about. Okay, so Microsoft Word in general is an application for creating and working with text-based documents. Now, it's not exclusively text-based. You can insert things like pictures or links to, websites or shapes and things like that. But it began as text-based documents. So things like letters and term papers, we mentioned resumes, flyers, cover letters, those party invitations, all of that kind of stuff. But it is designed to be text-based. So, and there are a couple of big things to know when we talk about descriptions and terminologies. The ribbon is the area at the top of the screen in Microsoft Word that basically includes all of the stuff that's in blue across the top. And then the bit below that where all of your tools and icons sit. And we'll cover icons in just a moment. But these are all tabs and icons and groups that are in this part down here. Okay, so if you see this screenshot here, basically everything that's in blue and everything right below that is considered the ribbon. Okay, then your tabs are File, Home, Insert, Design, Layout, References, Mailings, Review, and View. And what the tabs do, if you notice, I think the reason they're called tabs is essentially because if you looked at a filing folder cabinet that you had in your house and you were going through each of those folders that's got a tab at the top so that you can see it along the way is sort of how this is designed. So if you look at right now, this one is on the Home tab, and that's why the Home tab is white and kind of lit up there. If we switched to the Design tab, then the stuff down here where you see things like clipboard and font and paragraph, this is all going to change when we switch to a new tab. So whenever you're on a different tab, you'll check for the tools and the icons that are down here, and those will change. Okay. So then we get into the icons and task buttons, which, as I said, these, oh, and I should say, so basically tabs, there are 8 tabs in addition to the File tab. And the File tab is a little special, and we'll get into why that is in just a moment. Okay. And the icons or task buttons are essentially the graphical representations that correspond to the different functions within Microsoft Word. So if you hover over, and we'll do this in our live demo in just a second, but if I hover over the B, for example, down here, that's going to mean bold, and that's going to make my text bold. So it's going to make it kind of heavier and bigger looking. You know, if I was to click on italic, which is the little I here, that's going to make it, it's going to italicize my text. Okay, and there's quite a few different things. If you wanted to paste, you know, if you're pasting something, you can tap on this paste icon and it'll paste your text in, or whatever you're pasting into your Word document. Okay, so those are the icons and task buttons. And then we have groups. And groups are the related task functions that are organized together. So the name of the group is usually right below the task button or icon. So if someone tells you to look in the paragraph group to find out where you can align your text, that's going to be right here where it says paragraph. And there's these little, you can't see it quite so well in the screenshot here, but there's a little bar that goes down here. Oops, sorry, let me go back. Little bar that goes down here and a little bar that comes over here that separates this paragraph group from the font group. Okay, so everything having to do with your font would be in this group, and everything having to do with your text and how it's organized and where it's, you know, aligned and all of that would be in this paragraph group. Okay, so additional tasks, if you can't see it here, if you click, if you see this little, I don't know how well you can see this, Rebecca, but there's a little box at the bottom right-hand corner of each of those groups that has a little box with a little down arrow. It kind of goes down into the right. That's the dialog box, and the dialog box will give you even more options for what you can do with your within that group. Okay. So, okay, so I'm going to leave it on the question slide. I'm going to stop sharing and then jump to the live demo of that real quick. So I'm hoping this is going to work. So I have to jump out of that and jump back in here and then share my entire desktop screen. So hopefully you're now seeing our Word document again.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so if we look up here at the top, this blue part here, this is all part of our ribbon. And then down here, which is our tool, this is also called the toolbar. Down here where you see all the stuff that's in white, that is also considered part of the ribbon. Now, if you're like me, here's a little tip. If you're like me and this happens to go away at some point and you suddenly don't have any of these tools down here, you might have clicked on this little arrow in the bottom right-hand corner. Can everyone see that where it says collapse the ribbon? Can you see that, Rebecca? And
Yes,
how
I
that
can.
popped up and says collapse the ribbon? Okay. So if suddenly you have this, and you're like, oh no, everything's gone away. It's okay. What you can do, come up here to where it says ribbon display options, and there's auto hide, show tabs, and commands. If you hit show tabs, oops, and show tabs and commands, if you hit show tabs and commands, that's going to bring that back for you. So that's the first thing I want everyone to be able to take away from today. That's a little quick lesson for everybody, is if this disappears out of Word, the first thing to do is to check and make sure that this button up here that says ribbon display options, use that one and do show tabs and commands, okay? And that'll bring all of this back. If you do show tabs, it's just going to show you home, insert, design, those right there. Okay, so it's a way to save space if you want to save space. But if you want to see those icons, I'm someone who likes to click on the little icons. So I like having my ribbon all the way open with all of my tools right there. Okay, so I did want to share that real quick. Now, when we're talking about our different tools here, I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly, but if you want me to stop anywhere along the way, please just let me know, and we can stop at each one of these little tabs. We're going to go through them and review them kind of quickly here, but I do want to talk about it real quick. So as you can see, the Home tab is going to give you most of your options for things that you might use a lot. So how to edit your text, editing your text and your font, aligning things, making it look nice is all going to be in this Home tab. Insert allows you to insert things like pictures, page numbers, a header, so you can give a header across the top of your document, or a footer that you can put down at the bottom of your document if you want to insert shapes and stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in Microsoft Word Part 2 and also in Part 3 about inserting different things into Word documents. Okay. Design allows you to kind of customize using a theme for how your text would look and how it will automatically change. Layout allows you to play with your margins. That's basically how far you have before you start your text starts on either side. You can pick orientation like landscape or portrait, the size of your paper that you're writing on and using, and you can also decide whether or not you have 1 or 2 columns. So if you're writing a newsletter, you might do 2 columns. References is going to be things like spelling, grammar checks. Oh, sorry. References is going to be more like citations, styles, things like that. Review is going to be where you get spelling and grammar, a thesaurus, in case you want to change your word, what word you're using with something else. Mailings is if you're doing like holiday cards and you want to print labels, you can use mailings for that. View is going to show you the different views that you can have of what you're typing. Okay, so we're not going to go into a whole lot of detail about each one of these today, but I do want you to know that they're out there and that they're available, that you can push buttons and kind of play around with if you want. Okay, so that's groups. Are there any questions about the ribbon or groups or tabs and or icons right now? Oh yes, I did want to show you. So if I hover over B for bold, can you all see that when I hover over it, it now says, a little pop-up box says bold, and then in parentheses, it says CTRL plus B. That's a keyboard shortcut. So not only does it tell me what it's doing to the text, which means it's making it bold, but it's also giving me a keyboard shortcut where if I hit that combination of keys, it's going to do the same thing as if I tapped on this button. And we'll cover that more when we change and edit some of our text in a minute. Okay, any questions so far?
I don't see any questions so far.
Okay, perfect. Rather than jump back and forth again and have everyone have to change that stuff again, I'm going to go ahead and cover the next section of the PowerPoint, which is our basic elements of Word, just live right now. Okay, so the next thing I want to cover is our elements that are up here at the very top on the left hand. If you see the little thing that looks a little bit like a floppy disk, this is the Save button. And that's in something called our Quick Access Toolbar. So these 4 icons that you see here right now, these are all in something called our Quick Access Toolbar. And if I hit this little arrow right here at the far right of the Quick Access Toolbar, I can customize it with other things that I maybe use frequently. So if a lot of times when I'm here in Word, I use the command to print, right? So I want to print something. Instead of having to go all the way to the file menu, tab and go all the way down to print and then print preview and whatever, if I would just want to go, okay, I just want to print this quickly, I can add quick print up here. And you see how that added this other little icon here? I can also take that away by just hitting this and it'll take it out. Okay, so if you want to customize your Quick Access Toolbar, you certainly can. You see where it says more commands, you can add other things that you do all the time to your own version of Microsoft Word using that Quick Access Toolbar. Other ones that are not, this one's grayed out right now because I haven't typed anything, but you see now that I've typed something down here, now I have this one here, that's undo. So that's like what we used to have in older versions of Word where you go to the edit menu and you pick edit, undo. Now it's just one button, so it's a little bit faster. So you can just tap that and it's going to undo my typing. If I hit it again, it'll undo all of my typing. Now if I decided, oops, I actually only meant to undo part of that, I can do the redo button, which is going to redo my typing and put it back like that. Okay. So that's what's up there in the Quick Access Toolbar. That's one of those basic elements of Word. The next thing I want to cover right here is our title. This is our document title. Right now it's document 1 because we haven't actually saved it or changed it to something else. This is different than what you would have in the online version of Word where as soon as you name it, it saves it. We have to go in and we have to say, File, Save As, and then give it a name, and then save it, okay? So we're gonna do that in just a moment, and you'll see how that changes. But I just want you to know that your document title is always going to be up here in the top in the middle, okay? Over here, what we just talked about, that display the ribbon, that button there, very important, auto hiding the ribbon, or showing tabs and commands. I prefer showing tabs and commands. If you show just the tabs, that's just gonna give you like home, insert. And if you auto hide it, that means it's gonna go all the way away, okay? All right, and then up here, you also have minimize, which is gonna send Word down here back onto your taskbar, which is down here at the bottom. It's not closed, you can still bring it back. You just have to tap on it down here and bring it back up here. Okay, so that's to minimize. And even when I hover over it, you'll see how it says minimize. It's kind of tiny, but it says minimize. And then over here, this here, restore down, will make it smaller. So if you have to put it to one side while you're doing other things, and then maximize makes it full size again. The next thing over here, this X, is to close out of Word entirely. So if you hit this X here, it's gonna close out of your document and you're gonna have to get back into it or restart. So I'm always careful if I'm hanging out up here in this right-hand corner that I only use this X, and that's also why it changes colors. If you see how it turns red, that's because it's gonna close out of your document. So I'm always careful if I'm up here in this corner to make sure that I'm not hitting this accidentally, because I've definitely done that before. Okay, any questions so far about the stuff at the very top of the screen? Okay, the next step I want to,
Susan.
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, even if you click it accidentally, it's probably a good idea if you have your documents saved. So even if you did hit that X accidentally, that you had your progress saved.
Yes. So if I wanted to right now, and this is because we haven't gotten to the save as yet, but if I for me, when I immediately get into a Word document and I start typing, after about the first 2 sentences, I usually go in and do File, Save As, and save my work. And then periodically throughout, you want to make sure you keep saving it. Okay. So especially in case there was something like a power outage or you accidentally kicked the computer, and you just want to make sure you keep saving and saving often. Okay. Couple of other things I want to show that are these basic elements. So this right here is considered the document window. So everything underneath the ribbon is considered the document window down here. This over here is your scroll bar. So everybody can see that where I'm scrolling up and down.
I was going to say you might want to add directionals into your description of stuff, because your mouse is a little small. So I'm not sure if you can increase, if you do like, is it possible you can try to increase the size of it? I'm not sure if it translates to Zoom though.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can change the resolution because my mouse is already pretty big on my screen. I think it's like a size 6.
I think it's just the default small size. So that's why, why I say, you know, the directionals might be helpful for people who are having a hard time seeing the mouse.
Sure, yes. So yeah, sorry, I think my mouse, so it's bigger on my screen, but it may not be translating well into Zoom. But yes, so the scroll bar is actually over here on the very right-hand side. And just underneath the ribbon, there's a little arrow that faces up. And then at the bottom, there's a little arrow that faces down. And your scroll bar is this big long bar off on the side here. So if you're seeing how I'm using the scroll bar to go down and the text is disappearing, that's because I'm just scrolling to the bottom of the document, of that piece of paper. Okay, hoping that helps. At the very bottom on the left-hand side, you should be able to see the number of pages that your document has. So I'm hoping it pops up and says the current page number in the document. So page 1 of 1 down here in the bottom left-hand corner. And it's also telling you your word count. And then it's going to tell you if Word has found any errors. That's why it's highlighted in red, because Word is like, I don't recognize that word. So it wants to give you some suggestions about what that word should be. And then over here on the right-hand side, you have your document views down here at the very bottom. You have the read mode, the print layout mode, and the web layout. next to those, and we'll cover those too in more detail in the next Word session. Over here, this is the one I really want you to see, the zoom in and zoom out. So this little minus sign and plus sign, and where our zoom is at 100%, we can change this. If you're having a hard time seeing your document from this far away, you can increase down here by tapping on the little plus sign and zoom in to your document so that you're closer in on your document here. Okay, so you see how that got bigger for everyone? And if I hit the minus sign, it'll zoom out. So sometimes that's advantageous if you're trying to see what you're typing and it's harder to see on a big monitor and you want to zoom in a little bit to see it a little bit more closely. Okay, there's one other thing I want to show you, and this is something you can add if you don't see it by default. So in this version of Word on the current desktop that I'm on in our extra office where we're presenting today, I do not have my rulers. And normally I have my rulers because it's much easier for me to see where things are in the layout if I have the rulers on. So I'm going to turn on the rulers so then you can see where those are. So, excuse me, if I go to View up here, the View tab, and I'm looking at the different things that I can view, one of those things is rulers. And that's in the second group where it says Show. So you see there's Views off on the very left, then Show, Zoom, Window, Macros, and SharePoint. So what I'm going to do is go into the second column where it says Show, and I'm going to show my rulers. Does everyone see how that just added a ruler up at the top and a ruler at the side over here? Can you see those, Rebecca?
Yes.
I'm hoping you can see this. Okay. Okay. So this is telling me up here where the rulers are here, this is telling me how far in my text is going to start. And this one here is telling me how far down my text is going to start. If I want it to be different, if you see you get those little arrows right on top of it, you can pull it up or pull it over so that your text can start earlier over here. And we'll cover that more in our second session where we talk about formatting and moving your text around and making it nicer for printing and stuff. But I just wanted you to know that you can add those rulers, and those are considered a basic element. Okay?
I was going to say the rulers also kind of give you a sense of scale too. So if you were like, okay, yes, I want to print out this 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, but I want to make sure this particular line or picture is a certain size, you can kind of gauge that by your rulers.
Yes, and here's also where you can see that zoom too, in here where you can zoom in closer. But I like to just use the zoom. This is known as the zoom slider, the one that's down in the bottom right-hand corner. The zoom slider where I can zoom in or out. So if I zoom out a whole bunch, now you see how the ruler just changed with that. So the ruler is still showing me my 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, but now I have a much better view of the fact that, okay, my text starts, 1 inch into the document. So when this document is printed, it's got 1 inch on either side that there will be no text. That's known as your margin. Okay. All right. Questions about that so far? I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so it's a little easier to see what we're working with here and go back to home. Okay.
No questions.
So those are basic elements. All right, cool. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to explore some of our tabs here real quick. So the Home tab is going to include the group Clipboard, Font, Paragraph, Styles, and Editing. And you'll notice here, Clipboard does a lot with cutting and copying and pasting things. So if you were copying from some other document, you wanted to put it in here, you could do copy and paste, or you can cut something and move it somewhere else. So if you were editing a document and you're like, this sentence makes a lot more sense as the first sentence of my document rather than the last sentence, you can use copy and paste. And we're going to talk about copy and paste in session 2. And you can learn how to copy and paste things and move them around. Okay, but that's the Home tab. Paragraph, again, controls where things are in the layout, your actual text, bullet points. If you were doing like an outline and you wanted to use Roman numerals for your outline, that's all in Paragraph. Styles changes things so it has a certain look to it. Like if I hover over here, you can see how that just changed it to blue and a little bit, made it a little bit bigger. And then find is great. Find allows you to find something in your document and you can find and replace it. So if something's been spelled wrong, you can replace it and spell it correctly every time by just going in and finding it and tweaking it. And there's some other editing stuff that you can do. Okay, insert, again, as I said, insert lets you insert things like pictures, tables. You can insert a new page or a page break, which means you're forcing Word to break a page in a certain way. A header, a footer, page numbers, all that kind of stuff. We're going to spend a lot of time with insert in Word 3 that we're going to do. Again, design lets you kind of formulate things with a theme, and you can play with colors and your paragraph spacing, things like that. Layout allows you to play with the margins, the orientation, columns. References, again, if you're doing things for school or work and you need to have citations or footnotes, a table of contents, that's where you can do all of these kind of things here. Mailings, again, is mostly labels and like mail merges, things like that. And review is spelling and grammar, the thesaurus. If someone is making comments on your document, you can track those comments. You can show the changes that have been made. And then view allows you to view either in read mode, which looks like this. And then again, make sure it's okay. Just because you've lost the tabs, it's okay. It's just because you're doing it in read mode. And to get back, the easiest way I know to get back is I just come down here to the bottom, because we just talked about the print layout, web layout, and read mode being right here next to the zoom slider in the bottom right-hand corner. So I'll just switch it back to print layout, and then we get everything back there. Okay. So, questions about any of the tabs?
We do have a question about a function in the insert tab.
Okay, sure.
I know we were probably going to cover this in a separate class, but someone is asking how do you insert page numbers?
Yes, so yep, we are covering this in 2, but I can show you it's pretty easy to do. I'm just going to go ahead and we'll do a couple more things here so that we have a page 2. Okay, so if you see now we have a page 2, and the reason we know we have a page 2 is if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, there it now says page 2 of 2, and there are now 5 words in our document instead of 1. And if I wanted to put page numbers in here, I can go up to insert, come over to the group for header and footer, and I'll see I can either do a header that'll go up at the top of the page, and that might be, if you're writing something for work and you need to put the title of the document and the date that you did it at the top. And then if you need page numbers, you can tap page number right here, and then you can select where you want your page number to appear. If you want it at the top of the page, off on the left-hand side, the middle, or the right-hand side, or you can do it at the bottom of the page on the left hand, the middle, or the right. And then you can do other things like playing with where your margins are for the page number, how close does it appear to the edge of the page. So if I just wanted to go ahead and say bottom of the page, and let's go on the right-hand side, you'll see now that it's put in the footer down here. The page number is right here, and it's page 2. Now if I go up 1, you'll see it automatically put in page number 1 over here on the right-hand side as well. Okay, so that's how you can add page numbers. Okay, and then you just have to remember to hit close header and footer. And then when you're typing along, it's all going to be here. This is going to be grayed out because it's, this is the one that's down in the right-hand corner. It's grayed out because it's part of the footer. So you'd have to actually tap twice in this area here to be able to do anything in the footer. Okay.
Can you also show how to start page numbers? Like say you don't want the first page to have a number because maybe it's your title page. Is there a way to do it to start it on a second page?
Yeah, so when you do, so insert, and you come down to your header and footer page number, and you can do format page numbers, and you can pick if you want them. You can do all sorts of things, but you can do page numbering. You can start at what's actually page 2 here, or page 1, and then it'll start at, so if you had like a title page, table of contents, and then you want your actual start of your assignment to be page 3, you could have it start at page 3, and then it'll start from there. You can also change it from numbers to having it be Roman numerals. So if you had like an appendix and you wanted the appendix to have Roman numerals for how it was counting the pages, you could pick Roman numerals there too. So yeah, good question.
I'll also include a link, like when we send out, we're going to send out the slides to everybody once we have the video ready for this, and I'll go ahead and include a little link to some info on page numbers as well.
Yeah, and if you come for next week, we'll also be covering page numbers in next week too, when we cover the insert tab more fully. We'll be inserting pictures and page numbers and headers and footers and text boxes and all sorts of fun stuff. So, okay. So if no more questions about that, I do want to cover specifically the File tab because it's actually somewhat special. If you notice, the rest of the tabs that we've been talking about so far have functions that you're doing to your document directly in the document. File, however, gives you the ability to save your document, save as, and we'll explain that difference in just a moment, and then to be able to print it or export it or share it with other people. Okay, so it looks a little different. You can even see, you know, when I jump to it, it brings up a whole different menu of options here, including, you know, the ability to print. And when you tap on print, it'll show you the print preview of what your document will look like. Okay, so if you wanted to check on that ruler and say, okay, this is an inch, but maybe I only want a half an inch instead of a full inch, then you can look at the print preview and then you can go back and manipulate your document if you need to. Okay. Okay, so I did want to make that little note there. Okay, any questions about File? Okay,
I don't see any so far.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and I'm just going to do a little sentence here. So we're going to start with the cat in the hat is very happy. Normally, when we do the in-person workshops, I have everybody go ahead and write on their screen, you know, learning computers is something. You get to fill in the blank with whatever you want. So if you're following along at home and you want to do that, feel free. I usually say, you know, learning computers is fun, it's challenging, whatever term you want to put in there. And usually I say, you know, as long as it's library appropriate for the in-class workshop. But today I'm just going to go ahead and say the cat in the hat is very happy. And now we've created this document. And because we're not using a template, it's blank, we're going to go ahead and now save our document. Because remember, we've typed something, we want to make sure we save it so we don't lose it. And when I come up to File and I go down to Save, if I'm saving it for the first time, I always pick Save As because there's a difference between save and save as. When you save something and you just use the Save button, every time you save it after that first time, it's basically writing over the top of your existing document. So when you say, you know, so when you saved it the first time and it just says the cat in the hat is very happy, and then I go in and I open it again and I make a change and I say the cat in the hat is very happy unless he isn't happy. Then I save it. That document is the same. So when I open it again, it's going to have the cat in the hat is very happy unless he's very unhappy or sad or whatever we've made it. Save as gives you the opportunity to save it as a new version. So that's the way I usually think of save as save as a new version if you want. So today I'm going to hit save as. Save as also lets you pick the place that you want to save it. So if I browse over here, I can pick the desktop, which is this right here, and I'm going to say, here is the file name. Everybody can see that? I don't know how large that's appearing, but if I want to save as, and I want to give it a file name, I'm going to just say cat. Now we have a whole class on file storage and organization and how to really name your files. That's not a very descriptive file name, so I would say you'd want to save it with a better, more descriptive file name. But for today, this is going to work for us. So I'm going to save the file as cat, and I'm saving it in the desktop. Okay, and I'm going to hit save. Okay, now you'll notice up here at the top, in the middle, it has now changed to cat. And so cat is now this document. Okay. Now I'm adding a little bit more to it. Now when I hit File, Save, It's going to save cat, and cat now has the changes I've just made. So the cat in the hat is very happy and is a great cat. Now, if I go to File, Save As, and I want to save this version with a different title, from here I can. I can pick Desktop, and instead of saving it as cat, I could save it as cat 2. Then save it. So now if I save it as cat 2, and I can say, a great cat indeed. So now when I save this, I now have 2 versions of this document. I have the first version called cat, and now I have a version called cat 2. Cat 2 has this added bit called a great cat indeed. Okay, so if you want to track changes that you've made with different versions, use Save As. If you don't care about the previous versions of something and how it began to how it ended, then you can use Save. But remember, Save is going to save over the top of what was already there. Okay, does that make sense for everyone? That's probably one of the harder concepts to get between the difference of save and save as. So if I just go ahead and hit save, the other thing about hitting save or hitting the save icon up here in the quick access toolbar is that it doesn't allow me to save it in a new location. So when I do File Save, it just saves it. So the assumption here is I know where I want it to be. It's already in the location I want it. So I'll just hit save. Okay.
I was going to say the analogy I usually use with Save As is kind of like if you're, like for me, if I was like writing an assignment for one of my classes, say, and I had a first draft that I was doing, but I was continuing to edit it and I maybe have draft 2, draft 3, draft 4, and I wanted to see my revisions and my change and my progress, then I would do Save As so that I could have those different copies. But
Yeah.
if I just have one document that I'm writing that, you know, it doesn't matter if I save all of my revisions, then I'll just, as I'm working, I'll just hit save.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also works well in, you know, in a working professional world where you've sent one version to your boss and your boss has sent back some edits for you to make. You're going to make those edits, but maybe you want to know where you started. So you would save that first version from where you started, and the version you're actually going to turn in has all of those edits to it.
It kind of makes more sense as you start working with files and stuff, but
Yeah.
I can also include a link on kind of what the definition and like the idea behind the 2 versions of saving.
Yeah. There's also a joke for designers who use like Photoshop and some of the more advanced visual things where this comes up all the time, where, you know, they'll have final version 1, final version 2, final version 3, where they've made tweaks and edits, and they want to save all those tweaks and edits along the way. So think of Save As saving all those tweaks and edits along the way, where it gives you the opportunity to name it and keep track. Okay.
And I was going to say, let me just throw in this last thing.
Sure.
You should think also, you know, if I make like one little word change or maybe a sentence change, is it worth having a full new document just for a small change? Or do
Absolutely.
I want to document a larger change? So that's also something to think about.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, if you're just, you know, if you are just editing some punctuation and you missed a period and you put the period in there, then I would just use save and just save it. Because then when you open it again, you've made that change and it looks, you know, it's the change that you need to make. Or you might have the first version where you haven't done a spell check yet. And the second version, you've done your spell check, and that's the version you want to use. So that's the version where you're going to say, you know, save as, you know, spell checked version. That way, you know, that's the version you've actually gone through and edited and done your spell check on. Okay. Okay. Is that clear as mud, right? I hope everybody, if you have questions about that, please, again, just let us know. Put something in chat, raise your hand. I'm going to go ahead and move to opening documents real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this Word document so you all can see my desktop again. Now, when you're opening documents in Word, you can, and you'll notice here, Cat and Cat 2 are both saved on our desktop, which is this big blue area here, down in the bottom corner on the left-hand side. I don't know if you can see, again, since my mouse is kind of small, you may not be able to see it, but I can kind of, I wonder if I can draw. Yeah, if I draw on it like that, can you see that, Rebecca?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so I've drawn across the fact that we've saved those two versions on the desktop with their two different names. If I want to open an existing document, I can tap on it and just open it like that. I can click, click, so what I call tap, tap, or click twice to open that document and begin working on it again. Or I can come down here and I can open Word 2016 like this, and I can go, oh, you know what? Here's recent document, cat, and I can open it there. So if that went by for too fast for everybody, here's Word 2016, opening it up, tapping right there, okay, on the list of recent documents. So that's another way to open it. Or I can go to my Start menu here and Documents, and then sometimes that'll bring up my recent documents that I've worked on. I don't think it will on this because it's just going to bring up the Documents folder. But if you have it enabled on your machine, sometimes this is recent documents instead, and it'll show you the stuff you've worked on recently. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and jump back into CAT, but that's opening existing documents. All right. Questions about that? No questions so far?
I don't see any questions so far.
Okay, now we're going to get into the really fun stuff. This is my favorite thing to do in Word, probably because I like to make things bigger and colorful. So we're going to play around with changing our text and our font. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and take my text here, excuse me, and I'm going to highlight a little bit of the text that I want to change. So there's a couple of different ways you can highlight stuff. If you hold down your left mouse button over the top of whatever you want to highlight, and then you drag your mouse across, and then let go, it'll put a highlight on it like this. That means it's been selected. Then you can choose whatever icon and task function you want from up here, and it'll happen to all of that text that's been highlighted. So if I want to bold my text, I can hit bold, and you'll see it'll make it bold. So it looks a little bigger now. If I want to make my text bigger in general, which I'm going to do for us now so that it makes it easier to see this. So I'm going to make it, let's make it like 36, okay? So now it's 36, that's the font size. And if you notice, I've highlighted it here, and I've come up here to the font group. Up here at the top, it's the second group over. And I'm looking where it says Calibri up here. I'm going to highlight that. Can everybody see that? I know it's probably kind of small.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so Calibri's up here. And then where it says 36 next to it. So the 36 is the size of the font, and Calibri is the font. So it's the style of font. So you might have heard of Times New Roman or Arial. Those are fonts. And you can pick your own font to write your document in. And a lot of times for school, they will tell you specifically, you know, use Times New Roman 12-point font, or Calibri 11-point font, or Arial 9-point font for your documents. So if there's a standard, this is where you're going to come in to see that standard and use that standard. To edit how big it is, if I hit this arrow here, I can pick a different size. And you see how the preview will actually change as I mouse over the top of it, and it'll make it, sorry, it's going to catch up with me in just a second because I went through these kind of fast. And you can see that it's changing it as I go through it. Now, it doesn't have to be 26. I could make it 27. To make it 27, I just have to tap into that little spot where it says 26 in the cursor, move over and hit 27 and hit enter. Then it'll make it 27. So these are just guesstimates of what you want. You know, 12, 14, 16, these are just some standards, but it doesn't have to be that. So it could be 36, or I could make it 30. Okay. Questions about that? No? Okay.
No question. Sorry, I was typing.
Okay, oh, you're fine. So here, if I want to change the text to a different font, I can also do that. So if you see how right now it says Calibri, I can hit this little, the down arrow here, and I could pick a different font. Now the fonts are installed on the machine, and they come with Microsoft Word. You also have the opportunity, if you want, you can go out and find fonts from other locations. You can buy fonts. You can find free fonts online. You can put them wherever you want to put them. So depending on your purpose with what you're creating, so for example, if I was creating a, let's do like, let's say I'm inviting people to a party, but it's going to be have a very elegant feel to it. I might pick something like this font here that looks sort of like a cursive font and looks very elegant and kind of posh. Or if it was a Broadway, you know, we're going to do Broadway movies or Broadway shows, musicals from Broadway. Then we might pick this font called Broadway, which looks much like the Broadway playbills. Okay, so it's entirely up to you. For most business purposes, you're likely going to use Times New Roman, Calibri, or Arial. So we're going to switch to Arial. So this is what Arial looks like. Okay, and then you also have the option to change individual words. You can italicize individual things. So if I wanted to emphasize that he's a great cat, I can italicize great and be like, he's a great cat. I could make it capitalized. So I can do, with this here, you can change the case. If everybody sees that, it's the big A and the little a up here. If I change the case, I can do uppercase, and it'll automatically do uppercase for that whole word. So that is putting more emphasis on the word great, that he's a great cat. So I encourage you to play around with these here in the font group here. Strike through, just make sure, you know, here, we'll strike through like that. We can do below and above. We can change it to word art where it's got, you know, like a little bit of a shadow or an outline or reflection, a glow. You know, you can do all those things. It all depends on what kind of purpose you're serving with the document you've created. I can change the color. So up here with the A with the red line underneath, that allows me to change the color of my font. So I could make it blue or green, maybe yellow. But keep in mind, sometimes these are hard to read, especially for people that may have color blindness, or you know, it's hard to see different shades of different things. So just keep that in mind as you're making things. The standard is usually black. But again, depending on your purpose, you might want to pick different colors. You can also put a highlight in a different color. So if you were editing someone's document, maybe you would highlight in yellow the things that you've added or changed within someone's document. Okay. So I just wanted to show you that. Let's see, where am I at here? Yep, I think we've got all that. Are there any questions about editing using that text and font in the font group?
I don't see any questions for that.
If you want to remove what you've done, this clear all formatting will clear all of the formatting except for the background highlight. If I want to do that, I just have to hit no color, and that'll take that out. And that is different than if you do a white or gray color there. So just keep that in mind too. Okay, questions? Are there other things you'd like for me to demonstrate today? Or other questions you might have about Word? We can go into a little detail of that too.
Yeah, I don't see any questions so far, but if you have any question about stuff we covered like previously or something like that, feel free to either raise your hand or put it in the chat and we can work that way.
And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here, but I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. And then if you do want, again, we have the PowerPoint available. We can share that with everyone. I'm just going to share my
I'm going to also put both of our emails into the chat so that if you have a question after the webinar is over, you can shoot us an email. We're usually good about getting back to you about questions. Even if it's, you know, for something outside of Word or whatever, you'll have it just in case.
Yeah, so here is, again, the basic elements of Word. We talked about the quick access toolbar up there in the left-hand corner. We talked about the document title, which is in the middle. And then once you've saved it, this will change to whatever you've named your document. The show or hide the ribbon which is that first button we saw, where if it goes away, minimizing, which puts it down in the taskbar, maximizing, which makes it full-sized, and then the closing out button. And the basic elements of Word, the ruler, your page count, status bar down in the bottom corner, proofing and the errors. And then over on the right-hand side, we talked about the zoom slider and the different document views and the scroll bar. So I'm hoping this gives you a closer view of that stuff that was kind of hard to see in the live demo too. And then the tabs and groups and how those exist. The insert tab, including pages and headers, design, layout. So these are the ones that we went through live, and what they look like. And so this would be in the PowerPoint. Acrobat was one I didn't really talk about too much, but it allows you to create a PDF out of a Word document. So especially if you're doing things like resumes or documents that you don't want other people to be able to edit, you can create a PDF out of your document, and that Acrobat tab at the very end lets you do that. If you need more information about PDFs, we can talk about that too. That's Portament Document File. It basically makes it an image. Then File and how that's different. So you can open new documents, open recent documents. You can save your document, use Save As, and that's where you can also look at printing. And then creating a document using either the blank document or using a template. Let's see. And then saving and save versus save as. Use the save button. And the save button is the one located in the quick access toolbar. You can change that though, using that little arrow there, and you could make it the save as button instead. So if you find that you want to save all those versions, you can put the save as button up there instead. Okay. And then we talked about how to open existing documents. Okay. And then changing your text and font. So I'm hoping this screenshot lets you see a little bit more closely how those icons look in there, where you can highlight. So here's a closer view of where you can change your font. So here where it says Calibri, you'd hit that little arrow and then pick a different font. Your text size, and you can pick a different size. Erasing the formatting is the little A with the little eraser here. The large A with the lowercase a means you can change that, make it uppercase or lowercase. This A here, these allow you to make the font bigger or smaller. So it's basically the same as text size, but it's just automatically increasing it. And then you have bold, italic, and underline, strike through, subscripts or superscripts, which put it below or above. The word art here, which gives you those shadows and effects, and then adding a highlight behind the text, and then changing the text font color. Okay, and then the rest of the slideshow, basically the PowerPoint goes through how to accomplish those tasks too. So in case you couldn't really see it with the live demo because it was too far away, you go through bolding and highlighting and all of that stuff. Okay, and then we do have some additional resources to share real quick. GCLF Learn Free has a nice Microsoft Word tutorial. We have Gale Courses classes, which are 6-week-long courses that you can take with a CPL card, and you get a certificate at the end. And there's many classes for Word. LinkedIn Learning has some videos you can take, and then there's some free. It's all free, but those two do require a library card. Then we have some training that's coming from Microsoft on how to learn how to use Microsoft Word too. And of course, we have books here in the library too, and you can check those out curbside if you like. And then here's my contact information. I'm thinking Rebecca put that in the chat and put hers in there as well. And
yes,
then the rest of the upcoming workshops. So again, next week is part 2. And then on the 29th, we'll have part 3. And then in January, I do want to let everybody know that we will have our tablet classes again. So how to get started with your, we'll have intro to Windows computers. We will also, for those of you with Macs, have a intro to Apple computers class that Rebecca will be teaching in January. And then we will also have the Attorney General, the Illinois Attorney General's office here to talk about navigating the internet safely and talking about some scams and identity theft issues to be aware of. So, and again, we have the Book of Librarians, live chat, email, reach out to us. We're happy to help with whatever you need. I'm gonna go ahead and escape out of that, and we'll see if I can actually put my camera back on, hopefully. So everybody can see me too. Okay, there we go. So you're able to see me now. Okay, and then Rebecca, if you want, you can cancel the spotlight if you want. And yeah, other questions or comments, things we can help with? Things you'd like me to demo?
Someone asked about symbols. We're going to cover that in some of the upcoming classes for Word.
Yes, we will. Yeah, I can show it quickly now too if you'd like, and then if you want to attend the session where we'll cover it more in depth, you can do that too. Let me jump into sharing that. Let me jump back into, and I'll jump into Word here. So for inserting symbols, there are a couple of different ways you can do it. For some of them, if you have a keyboard shortcut already, you can use your keyboard shortcut. Otherwise, if you see that we're on Home and we go to Insert and come all the way to the right-hand side where it says Equation and Symbol, and you can tap on Symbol, and then it's going to pop up with some of the symbols that are more frequently used, like say a smiley face. If everybody can see that, let me zoom in here, down here. So everybody can see we just put a little smiley face there with a symbol.
I was also going to say, can we cover accent marks too for like say you wanted to add like a accent to a letter E or something.
Yes, and some of that you can do with keyboard shortcuts if you have it set up on your keyboard to do those automatically, or you can add them in. So when you go to symbol here, you can hit more symbols, and then you can get more special characters and symbols here. And a lot of times, if you use it fairly often, it'll show up down here in the recently used symbols. If you were, say, going to type something in like French or something, you can pick up here where it says font. I think right now I'm on Windings, but you can do Latin, and Latin will change. You can do normal text like this. And then when you look through here in normal text, you'll see a bunch of different options. And there should be right here, let's see if we have our accent grave. Let's see.
Maybe it's under a different font.
I think it's in Latin. I think it's in Latin. Let's go down to Latin. I think has some of the diacritics. Everything else. Yeah, so for example, like this would be your accent, accent grave and accent aigu if you're doing things in French. You have umlauts, like in German, if you were to do the umlaut over your O.
Is there a way to change the font on that though? Because like if you're typing in Times New Roman and you have that, then it's going to look different.
No, you could just go up to your home and your font and change it to like Arial or whatever you're doing. So for example, if I was going to type the word Kuss in German, which is normally KU with an umlaut and then an SZ. So I could do this, and then it would be my U. Instead of this, I'd highlight it, insert, symbol, more symbols. And again, this is why keyboard shortcuts are kind of nice too, because then you don't have to go and hunt for it. But if I was looking for the U umlaut, I'd say insert. And then if I was looking for my SZ, which would be, I don't know if we have the SZ. And you can also set your keyboards to automatically give you keyboard shortcuts for those if you type in those other languages a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say you can assign certain keyboard shortcuts, like if you're typing in that.
You could do like Control, you can do it where like Control S would give you the S set, which is basically this symbol here is the S set. So I would insert that and then close. And then this would be the German word for kiss is Kuss. So there you go. My mom would be proud of me that I remembered that that was the word for kiss in German, I think. So, But that's how you can do symbols. If you have your keyboard set up to do it, then you can, you could do whatever keyboard shortcut it was. Like if it was, shift and the caret would give you, your U set or whatever. So, and those are things you can set up on your keyboard. So if you see down here where it says shortcut key, and this is getting a little bit even further than what we're going to cover next week, but you could hit shortcut key and you see where that says Control plus and plus S, that would give you this key. So if I come down here to this E and I want this particular key, I could use the shortcut key and it's like this long drawn out 0, 1, 1, 3, whatever. But if I hit this, I can change it and make it, whatever I want it to be for the new shortcut key. So there's default shortcut keys, but if that, again, there's you have to hit a combination of 6 keys to get to one symbol. It's easier to just come in here and say insert symbol and pick it, or make your own that just says, okay, if I do a combination of shift tab this instead of all 6 of these extra characters, if that makes sense. So you can customize it a little bit and make it a little easier on yourself.
And these are pretty advanced topics too. So, I mean,
yes,
if you
want
to play around
more,
with it, for sure, definitely do that.
Yeah, this is much more than, next week we'll cover basically going over here to symbol and, more symbols, picking one of these and then inserting it like that. Changing the keyboard shortcuts and all that is a more advanced topic.
I know I've done that
but
before with the keyboard shortcuts when I had when I had French papers to write, and I had to have those accent graves and accent aigus and, you know, doing all that kind of stuff.
Yep, for German, it was all the umlauts and the SX and everything, and whenever I was writing the German papers, I had to get to them, and it was a lot easier to just do a keyboard shortcut of them while I was typing than coming up to symbol. But that is how you would do it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing that and come back in here. Okay, other questions? Oh, I'm waiting for it to catch up. Sorry, everyone. There we go. Just waiting for the video to catch up a little bit.
I don't see any other questions so far.
Okay, great. But yeah, so this is just a brief brief overview of kind of the layout of Microsoft Word, what the terms are, and then just getting into a little bit about text. Next week we'll cover how to format paragraphs, how to do double spacing and single spacing, how to insert bullet points, things like that, and help you justify, put your text on one side or the other, and also go over any questions you have there too. So.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a good starting point because then you lay your foundation of, okay, where can I go to get these particular tools? And then you take those tools to the next class.
Exactly.
And then you have them to use for your advanced stuff.
Yep. And then when we say, okay, we're going to insert something, everyone knows that probably means I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and then to which group I'm going to go to, and from there.
Exactly.
That's the hope at any rate. Other questions? Would anyone like to be unmuted to ask a question? We can also do that. Of course, you can raise your hand, and we can do that for you as well. Okay.
I don't see anything.
All right.
And of course, if you if you have a question later, feel free to email us.
Yes, and we'll send the video and the handout to everyone who's attended today. If you know someone who wanted to attend and couldn't, let them know. They can reach out to us, and we can also get them the video and the handout too. We do have the videos now up on a YouTube channel, and I will put that into the. If you don't already get our news, like our email that we send for the tech workshops, you can get to that by going to champaign.org/tech-workshops, and it's along the left-hand side, and you can sign up for that, and we send out all of the upcoming workshops, and we try to do that so that folks that have attended can have first pick of spots in the other classes. So feel free to sign up for that as well. Actually, I can show that real quick too, for those of you that are still here. Let me go to, let's see, do I have Chrome open? I do, okay. Let's do this. Oh yeah, and I was gonna show these too. So here are the plans where you can find the Microsoft plans for how much it costs for the paid versions. And the GCF Learn Free Word tutorial. And then the Word Help and Learning, where you can see some different videos about how to do things with Word. And then I'm going to add, hoping you can see, oh, did it not? It didn't jump from tab to tab, did it? Okay, hold on one second. Okay, we're going to come back here and do New Share and share our homepage. Okay, so now you should see our homepage. And then Adults, I'm hoping. And then Tech Workshops.
Yes, I see you moving through the pages.
Okay, good. And then down here is the sign up where you can get announcements about upcoming tech workshops and events. So if you sign up there, we'll also put the link for the YouTube playlists in there this next month. Okay, you're welcome to sign up. Okay, alrighty. Other questions? Anything else? Can go ahead and jump back here. Give me just a second.
I don't see any questions so far.
Okay, I'm going to try to stop sharing. Did I stop sharing? Okay, I did. Now, the interesting thing about
your camera off.
The web version does turn off the camera when you share your desktop screen. So I apologize if everybody was not seeing me as I was doing all the hand gestures over here like I was.
I know, I tend to do that too.
While I was presenting on the different things in Word with the live demo.
It helps me place things from my head.
Yeah, I was definitely doing these things in the background that you couldn't see at that point. But yes, all right. I think we're good. Any other questions or comments? Again, we do love feedback, so feel free to send us feedback. If there's things that you'd like to see covered in tech workshops, we'd love to hear from you. If there are things that you want us to cover in Word, again, let us know. We're happy to incorporate those things into these workshops as well.
Yeah, we're always looking for ways to improve, so feedback is very helpful for that.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming today, and hopefully we'll see y'all for round 2 next week. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.